Hey guys, welcome to my channel. I hope you're all doing very well. So I just watched the final season of Ozark. Let's talk about it. So another one bites the dust. Another one bites the dust. Guys, I have been losing all of my favorite shows left, right and center this year. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if there was some kind of memo to make me miserable in 2022, but so many of my favorite series have come to an end so far, and I'm just gonna have nothing left at this point. Like by the end of 2022, I'm just gonna have nothing but new shows left. So I'm really upset to see that yet another show that I've really loved over these last few years go. But yes, we did finally get the second part of the final season of Ozark this past weekend, and I'm going to be sharing my thoughts on this final season as well as the series overall in this review. But before we get into all of that good stuff, as per usual, if you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe to my channel and make sure you turn on your notifications so that you can be told when I upload next. Now without further ado, let's get into this. Ozark is a Netflix series that centers on a family, the Bird family, who moved to the Ozarks after having been pressured by a Mexican drug cartel to launder money for them. And so over the last few seasons, we have seen this family go from scrambling, panicking, okay, shook at their circumstances, to really rising to the challenge, and not only rising to the challenge, but actually flourishing, actually thriving in this new world that they exist in. And over these past seasons, we've met some pretty iconic and memorable characters that have joined the Bird family along the way to contribute to this incredibly rich world. And that just makes Ozark one of the very best series that Netflix has ever produced. It is truly just so clever. That's what gets me about Ozark, is that this series is so damn clever. All of the different twists and turns in the story feel so organic because nothing is rushed. We'll talk about rushing as it pertains to part 2 of season 4 in a moment, but up until this second part, nothing has felt rushed. Everything has been really well thought out and well paced. There's this build up of tension as the seasons go on, and for the most part, I think that the seasons have been engaging and entertaining from start to finish. The only season that I personally didn't adore was season 2, I believe, but I really did enjoy season 1. I thought it was phenomenal, and season 3 was also really great. So I was really excited for season 4, even though of course I was really upset that this was going to be the final season of the series. Now the clever writing here benefits the series in so many different ways. First of all, it helps set up the world of the Ozarks. I feel like this is a part of America that is scarcely highlighted in media, and I feel like I learned so much from watching Ozark, from watching the series and getting to know these parts of Missouri. It was really fascinating to me. It's like a whole different culture, and seeing of course the class divides within that culture, and the way that some people, some classes have privileges, and the way that they kind of dig for power and look for influence on all of these murky waters. But then you have the disenfranchised, you have people who are in cycles of poverty and crime and death, and that is so well reflected, especially when it comes to Ruth's side of the story, when it comes to the Langmore family, and how ultimately, oh god, we'll talk about it, ultimately she fell prey to that same cycle. And another way that the writing really does justice to this series is by really setting up the threat, like the stakes of this operation, because I feel like there are a lot of, you know, crime thrillers out there that kind of take it for granted that if you have a Mexican cartel involved, it's dangerous, it's scary, but they don't do a lot in the series itself to really establish the level of danger at play here. Whereas when it comes to Ozark, people are dying left, right and center. I don't think Ozark is paid enough respect for how Game of Thrones it is about killing off your favorite character characters, because it really is ruthless, pun not intended. It really is ruthless when it comes to killing off your faves. Like, it just does not care. And it's all in service of setting up the stakes. It's all in service of setting up why it is that the Bird family are constantly on edge, why they haven't been able to sleep in years because of this, you know, threat hanging over them in the form of the Navarro cartel. The series does a superb job of setting that up to the point where you as an audience, you know, you as a viewer feel that threat yourself. But then of course you have the superb writing when it comes to the Bird family itself and the family dynamics at play here. This family is so messed up. This family is destroyed. It starts off with Marty. It starts off with Marty introducing them into this world, but the way that each family member reacts, the way that they progress and develop as time goes on is fascinating. So let's start off with the Bird family, shall we? First of all, we have Marty. Now, he is the papa. He's Papa Bird, and I absolutely love Jason Bateman's portrayal of this character. I just think he is so quietly intelligent. He doesn't mince words. He's very, you know, quiet and pensive, but there are moments where he holds like that assertiveness to him, and I think those moments really stand out, especially when you contrast him against his wife. Now, I will say, even though I appreciate the Quiet King, even though I do have an appreciation for Jason Bateman's more, you know, reserved and, you know, under the radar portrayal of this character, I do think that somewhere along the way we lost sight of what Marty's role is in this family and in this operation. And that was none more obvious when we got to the second part of season 4, where I felt like Wendy just took over like a storm, like the storm that was headed towards the Ozarks. So I do think that Marty as a character would have benefited from a little bit more to do, especially in the second half of season 4, where I felt like his entire character arc rested on him just trying to please his wife, or I guess not upset her. I just think it was a shame that he was declawed to some extent, because you see him in the scenes in Mexico where he's supposed to be the mouthpiece for Navarro, unbeknownst to the rest of the gang. You know, Navarro is actually unconscious in a coma after an attempt on his life was made, but Marty takes over, and even though there are a few missteps, you know, he's a newbie, that's to be expected, but he seems like he's in his element when he's in Mexico. Like, he is just this quiet nerd, this dweeb that none of the Mexicans should take seriously, but because he knows what he's talking about, because he has an understanding of the business, of all sides of the business, they do have a respect for him. And of course it helps that he's, you know, the mouthpiece for Navarro, and anyone who crosses him is crossing Navarro. But still, I do think he just kind of stood out on his own. I think it was beneficial to have those scenes of him on his own, devoid from his family, and especially Wendy, just to show what he is capable of. And speaking of Miss Wendy herself, we cannot go on a second longer without talking about Laura Linney's performance. We simply cannot. Laura Linney deserves... Wait, hang on, let me be careful. Because I'm out here handing out Emmys to anyone and everyone, so I need to be very careful this time around. Okay, because last time I was campaigning for Kate Winslet to get an Emmy for her performance in Mayor of Easttown, and she got one, and that was solely because of me, so I need to be careful because my words have power. Anyway, oh my goodness, Laura Linney in Ozark, untouchable, almost untouchable. Almost, okay? She is just phenomenal. And the scene that stands out, we have to talk about this. The scene that stands out is where they're at court, just after the hearing has taken place, where her father has petitioned for the children to stay with him full time and move to North Carolina. And at first it seems as though Wendy has gotten away with this and has put this all to the side, because the PI who was supposed to testify didn't show up. He ended up taking the bribe. He ended up taking the bribe that the Birds arranged, and so it seemed like this was all going to be brushed under the carpet by the judge. But the judge turns around and is like, actually, the kids are old enough to make their own decision. And the kids are like, actually, we want to live with Grandpa. And Wendy loses her damn mind. Oh my god, the scene where they're outside and the grandfather is literally like on the steps of the courthouse, and Wendy goes down on her knees. She is begging, she begs him, she despises this man who abused her, her entire family, her mother, her brother. She hates him to her very core, but she got down on her knees and was begging him not to take away her children. That moment, oh my goodness, guys, it's just like what? It's out of my hands. It's out of my hands at this point. Like, she's just stolen the Emmy. And all throughout this season, we saw an exploration of Wendy's, mental state, her emotional state, her motives, the fire that she has behind her eyes when she's pursuing these operations. She is enjoying herself. It was established, a few seasons ago that she is actually up for the challenge, that she's actually enjoying being a part of this operation and building something herself, in particular the foundation. And so she has this fire within her. But as this operation, as this collaboration with a Mexican drug cartel, and the home life that she has, her family, start to collide, we see her start to have a breakdown in season 4. It's affecting her mentally, terribly so, especially after her father threatens to take her children away from her, and that is just ripe for opportunity when it comes to Laura Linney's performance. And then we have the little birds. We have the bird children who I think have been adorable throughout. I think they have done a great job. First of all, casting wise, they look like a family unit, which I've always appreciated. One of my pet peeves in Hollywood is when you have a biological family that look nothing alike. Like, literally everyone looks like they're from different planets, let alone from the same family. So that's one of my pet peeves. And I feel like with the bird family, you have, Charlotte, who looks like Wendy, and Jonah, who looks like Marty. So I feel like it's like a cute little family unit that makes it very believable. But in terms of the actors themselves, they've always done a great job of portraying these kids, even when they've been given a tough job in terms of the writing for these younger characters, because they can be a bit annoying, especially when they don't understand the stakes at play here, which we do. Which we do. But at the same time, there are moments where their self-righteousness is justified, when you see their mum in particular making all types of moves. And in the second half of season 4, we see, Charlotte speaking frankly with Marty about the state of their marriage even, and about how obviously Marty is being manipulated, or really just pulled here and there by Wendy, who's just commanding the whole situation. She's taken command, basically, even though this is a situation that Marty got them into. I will say, though, when it comes to the children, if I do have any complaints about the second half of season 4, it would be that there was a very quick kind of resolution for the issue between the children and their parents. They definitely rushed the resolution of that conflict in the family by basically having them be in a car crash where they almost died, and then clearly that evoked a sense of gratitude and a sense of, love for the family, and that's how they end up being a stronger unit together by the end of the series. I think that was a little bit convenient. I think we could have done a better job here. This is one of the few instances where the series felt like it was rushing, where it was trying to quickly resolve certain things in order to, wrap up the show, because it was ending. And I think it did a little bit of a disservice to the storyline of the kids kind of going out on their own against their parents, which was set up for a couple of seasons now. For it to just be fixed after that car crash is a little bit ridiculous. But having said that, I did personally like the ending when it came to the Bird family being a family unit against that PI who was hunting for clues as to what actually happened to Ben. And at the very end, when we see Jonah holding up that shotgun, protecting his family, becoming a little mini Marty, or even worse than Marty actually at this point, I think that was a really striking image, and it just showed how much of an influence the parents had on the kids, and just how wild this journey has been for the family, where someone who was morally opposed to everything that his parents was doing is now a part of that operation that has embraced it to some extent. Okay, so then next up, moving out of the Bird family, we have the only other person who matters, and that is Miss Ruth Langmore. Icon. This is one of the most iconic characters in television that we have seen in the last few years. Oh, I don't make the rules, okay? She really is. Ruth Langmore is just next level. Julia Garner did everything that she needed to do. I'm so sorry, but Ruth Langmore really is that girl. She really is. Like, when you're sick and tired of Wendy's nonsense, you go over to a Ruth Langmore scene and it just cleanses your soul. She is everything, but she ultimately has an extremely tragic ending. Oh, that's another thing about 2022, just killing off my favourite characters left, right and centre. She has a really tragic ending where her decision to kill Harvey finally comes to bite her in the ass, and she ends up being killed by Camilla, Harvey's mother. Just, oh, awful. I wanted her to get away with it so much. I just kept waiting for something to happen, for someone to save her, but no one came to her rescue. Even though she had come to the Bird family's rescue so many times, in the end she ended up dying alone, you know, wearing this beautiful white dress. And the second I saw her in the white dress, I knew, because she obviously looked like an angel, so she was already dead. And then you have Camilla come in with her black dress, and you have this scene in the forest with these two women, one of them wearing black because they're in mourning, and the other one wearing white because they're about to die. Oh my god, it's so poetic, but it's so heartbreaking. But even though I was really upset about Ruth dying at the end of the show, it wasn't the same kind of anguish and even anger that I felt with killing Eve, for instance, where I felt like that whole scene played out so poorly, the writing was done so terribly that it didn't feel organic. Like, it just felt like it was something that they threw in for shock value. But in the case of Ozark, her actions had consequences at the end of the day. Marty tried to warn her. He tried to tell her, this is something that is going to ruin your life. You know, it's not going to bring back your cousin. It's just going to destroy everything that you have built. Like, you can just walk away from this. But she was driven by revenge and hatred and anger, and she ended up killing Harvey, and the life that she was building, you know, the life that she could have used to escape from the family's curse, from the cycle of poverty and crime and death, that all of that just went away because of that one decision that she made. And that is poignant. That is a powerful message that makes sense in the context of the story, and it's not just something that's thrown in there for shock value, a la Killing Eve. And speaking of Camilla, she was a newcomer in season 4 who's portrayed by Veronica Falcon, and if you've watched Queen of the South, you already know what's up. You already know. Okay, Veronica Falcon is an icon. Okay, she is incredible in Queen of the South. So as soon as I saw her step into the scene, I was like, oh, it's about to go down. The whole mystery surrounding the attempt on Navarro's life was never a mystery to me, because I was like, you don't introduce Veronica Falcon to just be some, like, you know, sad, upset, mourning mother. Like, you don't do that. Something else is afoot, and we see her rising to power per the FBI's request, actually, by the end of the show. And that kind of contributes to that message of, like, all of the bad guys win in the end, which I guess echoes real life. Now, just to round off this review and give you guys my final thoughts on the finale, I will concede that there are several plot points that were never really resolved. There are some loose ends that still need tying if we're looking into all of the individual plot points of the show, but I personally don't mind that because I feel like they're minor. I feel like they dealt with the major plot points, and it gives the feeling of the final episode not being the end of the Bird family's story, but rather just yet another day with a few problems that they needed to resolve before they move on to the next thing. Because that's kind of how they were operating, especially with Wendy, you know. Each and every problem that came her way, she was like, okay, how can I tackle this? Like, how can we deal with this? You know, same with Marty, spitballing ideas, right? We'll split up, you deal with this, I'll deal with that. That's kind of how they've been functioning. So it makes sense to me that there would still be some, you know, little bits and bobs, some little, you know, T's that need crossing, I's that need dotting by the end of the show. But the idea is that they become such a well-oiled machine that none of it matters, because they will get through it. We've seen them get through hell and back, so it makes sense that these little bits and bobs will be dealt with as well. So with all of that being said, I'm going to be giving Ozark season 4 an 8 out of 10. And since this is the final season, I am going to be giving the show a rating overall, and I'm going to be giving it an 8.5 out of 10. I do think that some of those earlier episodes, especially in season 1 and some of season 2, were just so superb that they really held the show down. And even though there were parts of season 4 and 3 that weren't quite on the same level, it did make for a very, very entertaining series that I will be missing so much. And again, it's just yet another one that's bit the dust in 2022. But that's it from me. Now that I told you guys my thoughts on Ozark season 4 and the series overall, it's time for you guys to let me know what you thought of this series down in the comments below. Please be sure to subscribe to catch you videos coming up. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.